Welcome to Microsoft Excel with EJD. In this video, we are considering offset and indirect functions in Excel, right? And for this purpose, we'll be looking at the daily values data set. So, this is a very simple data set that, so the daily values data set actually gives us dates from 1st of January 2025 to 20th of January 2025, right? And we have values for each of the days. Of course, this value is not specified. Maybe it can be anything, maybe temperature or whatever, or number of visitors to a particular place or anything. But we just call it value generally to demonstrate the idea of offset and indirect. So this is what the data set looks like. So you have 1st of January 2025, 88, and then 20th of January 2025, 93, and you have all the values in between. So they are integers between 1 and 100, right? Um, like that. So let's go. So talking about offset, right? The offset function returns a reference to a range. So you have a range, right? So the offset gives you a reference to that range that is a specified number of rows and columns away from a given cell or range. So it's a specified number of rows and columns away from a given cell or range. It can also define the height and width of the return range. That's what offset does for you. So if I just come here for instance, and I say this is equal to, okay, if I come here and say this is equal to offset, okay, offset, and I open this. So you see reference here. So the reference is the starting point, that is a cell or range of cells. So you can have just a single cell or a range of cells. That's the reference. And the next thing, you have the rows. The rows are the number of rows to move from the starting reference. So like if you have the reference, now how many rows away should you move? That's the rows. And when you come to the columns now, it says the number of columns to move from the starting reference, right? So, and then you have the height, which is anything in this square brackets are optional. So you have height, which is optional, the height, which is the number of rows of the returned range, right? And the width, which is the number of columns of the returned range. All right. So this is a bit some clumsy, but then let's take examples to drive the point home. Since we are talking about offset right now, so let's go to offset and see. So look at our data again, right? From January 1st January to 20th January. So if you go to offset, if you want to see you want to get the value from 5 rows below the header, right? 5 rows below the header. You want to get the value. So come here now. This is the header, right? 5 rows below the header, you want to get the value. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So if you want to get that, come to offset, see what it gives you. So let me double click now. So here now you have is equal to offset data B1, and then 5 rows below the header. All right. And here we just all we have, just like what we saw from the syntax, we just have the so is the the reference is the data B1, all right, where where B1 is. This is B1 now. This is B1. So this is the starting point. Now that's why we have that, and because we are referencing another sheet, that if we are on the same page, we just go for B1 directly because that's the starting point. And then what's the next thing? So you have data B1, all right? And then the next thing is the rows. That's the number of rows to move from the starting reference. So from that starting reference, you're moving 5 rows downwards, right? And then how many columns? The number of columns to move from the starting reference. So we're not moving columns, we're only moving rows. So we just say 5. And then by the time we press enter, it gives us 57. So if you come back here, and this is B1, so just move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No column. So we just have that value of 57 right there. So what if we want to get the date 3 rows below A1? So A1 is the starting point, right? So you want to get date 3 rows below A1. So here now, so we double click. So you have is equal to offset data A1. So 3 rows below A1. So you say data exclamation A1, that's the starting point, and you're moving 3 rows. No, we're not worried about columns. So 3 rows below A1, no column. So we just have 3 rows. So you have This is A1 now. Three rows, one, two, three. So the date you get is 3rd January 2025. So what if I just want to switch things up a little bit and then maybe I just say, let me just put this here now. Not planned for, totally not planned for. So once you get date, three rows, three rows below A1 and three rows below A1. Okay, let's say three rows below and one column, one column, uh, one column to the right of A1. Okay. So if you do this, what happens? So I can copy the same code right here, copy this, and I paste it here. So don't forget, we are moving three rows below A1. So I change this to A, and then one column to the right of A1. Okay. So before I show the answer, right? So this is A1. Three rows below, that's one, two, three. Then to the right, that's 64. Okay. So we just come here. So it has to be get the value, so it should be get the value, three rows below, three rows below, three rows below, three rows below, and okay, yeah, I think that was right. And one column to the right of A1. What did we see again? Three rows below A1, that's one, two, three, and one value to the right. So that should give us 64, right? So we just come here. So we have data A1, three rows below, and one to the right. What's happening here? Okay, let's see. Um, in this case, now that should be data. Is this gonna work? Let's try B. Oh, this doesn't give us any sensible thing. Okay. So let's perish that then. I was just hoping it should do that. Okay. So we have this now. So let's move on. So get a range of three values. Get a range of three values starting from row 7, right? A range of three values starting from row 7. So you just come here. So starting from row 7, so you have offset data B1, all right? And so from data B1, three values starting from row 7. So you have 6 zeros. We are just moving rows down, right? So we have three values starting from row 7. So we have okay, the deal is not to do any of these things. Okay, I think this is getting messed up. Okay, let me just no. Okay, so is that what we had before? Starting from row 7. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have three values starting from row 7. So I think something is not right here. I have to change control. Get a range of three values starting from row 7. So row 7. Okay, we don't have a serial number for this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. This is first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's three values starting from row 7. That's 70, 88, 68. So what do we have? So okay. So if we highlight that, that's data B1, since we are looking for value, data B1, then number of rows, that's 6 rows below, since we are looking for three values starting from row 7. So the first row is already data B1. So that's why we do 6 here. So we move 6 rows down from the heading, and then we are not moving any column. And then we need three values. So that's three rows, one column. And by the time we press enter, that's why we have 78, 88, 68, and one column. So if you want, okay, we don't have any more values. That's why we cannot do more than one column for sure. Okay, what if you want sum of values from row 2 to row 6? So look at this now. So you have to now do the sum of that now. So sum offset. So from row 2 to row 6, that's data exclamation B1. So this is already the header. So row 2, that means one row above the header, then no column, and then to row 6, right? So that that'll be like from row 5 and just one column. So in this case now we go so what's that again? Values from row 2 to row 6. Okay. So this is row 1, this is row 2. Okay. Row 2, 3, 4, 5. Row 2 to row 6. Row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6. So it means it's more or less like saying you're doing the sum, from row 2 to row 3, 4, 5, 6. This. And that's 379, right? So, but instead of doing that, you just have this here. So you follow that. So it can be a bit clumsy, but just try to understand. So you get the value at the last date. Okay, you want to get the value at the last date. So if you want to get the value at the last date, what do you do? So that's so here now, it says equal to offset data B1. So since you are looking for the value itself, so data B1, that's the heading for the data side. Then you now count A. So you now have data A to A minus 1. So minus 1 tells you that you're moving from the back. And then you want to get the exact thing. So you press that now. So the value of the last date comes out and you have that 93. So you want to get the last value in the range. That it's more like I want to know the most recent temperature if you're dealing with temperature, or the most recent number of visitors if you're dealing with number of visitors. And that is the idea of offset. Okay. Now, what are the use cases, right, for this? Common use cases for offset include creating dynamic named ranges. All right. Then rolling averages, e.g., if you want to do moving sum over a period, you can add from this, maybe first, maybe you want to always add the first three, second three, and so on and so forth. So rolling averages, offset can work with that. If you want to do dynamic chart ranges, it's also good for referencing ranges that shift with data updates. Then the advantages, it's dynamic reference that adjusts with inputs, and it is good for advanced dashboards and models. The disadvantage is it's a volatile function. It recalculates whenever any change is made in the workbook, which can slow down large data sets. And it is not intuitive for beginners. Just like I said, so get some values from row 2 to row 6. You can easily use some for that. So it is more intuitive to sum up than to use this offset thing. But I mean, it's actually a thing. So that's why we're learning about it. So now that we're done with offset, can we move on to indirect function in Excel? First of all, the indirect function returns the reference specified by a text string. So it returns the reference satisfied. So I mean the reference specified by a text string. It allows Excel to interpret a string as a reference or range. So for instance, if I just go ahead and do indirect like this and open the bracket, so we have a reference text here. So the reference text is a text string that specifies a valid cell reference. And then you have this A1, which is optional. It is true if the reference is in A1 style, and it is false for R1, C1 style. For instance, okay, let's take some examples. Let's take some actual examples in this sheet now. Indirect. So we come here and maybe you want to get the value. Okay, indirect now. So you want to get value in cell B6. So what is the value in cell B6? So B6 is 57, clearly. So how do you get that value in cell B6? You just say indirect data exclamation B6. Well, now the funny thing here is that this you can see offset and indirect can be not intuitive for beginners, except maybe you're an advanced user and you really have an understanding. So what has brought this 57? We didn't have to use indirect. I could just say is equal to the cell is data All right. And I just do exclamation B6. We already learned how to reference data. So it's giving us the same thing. But if you do indirect, it gives you the same result. So it's equal to indirect data exclamation B6. So it's still the same 57. So without indirect, you can get the same result. So it's not so intuitive as we are going to see. So then next, you want to get data in cell A10. So what is the data in cell A10? So you come here in cell A10. All right. Cell A10, it's 9th of January. So we come for indirect. So we do indirect. So just like I said, so it's not that intuitive because that 9th of January 2025, I can get the same thing by just saying is equal to data exclamation A10. All right. Now, this is giving me date in a very strange format. So you need to convert it to date format, for instance, to be able to get the same thing. So you just right click on that. So the answer is correct, but you won't know because the format is not the right date type. So you just click date and then put it in that format. So you have day, month in 3 letters, and then the full year. All right. So we just come and say click on this format, and then you say okay. So you see, it gives you the same 9th of January 2025. So anytime you are working with it and it's giving you something you don't understand, don't panic. Just change the format to what you desire, right? So you see, using indirect here doesn't really make so much difference because you can get the same thing by just referencing the data normally, right? So, but it is what it is, like they say. So, get value dynamically using row number in D1. So you want to get value dynamically using row number in D1. So you use a row number in D1 and then you want to get the value. Now, the trouble is this on this page now, we are talking about this sheet. So you can see in my D1 here, I have a value 10, I have a value 11. All right. So if you want to get value dynamically using row number in D1, so here now you see you have is equal to indirect. So the data in column B, right? Not specified now. So the whole of column B. So talking about the data in the whole of column B now, and I'm now saying okay, so data in column B and D1. So you use this D1 to reference it. So this D1 now is 10. So it means that whatever value you have in B in row 10, that's what you're going to retrieve. Okay. So that in row 10 now we have 72. So if you come here and press enter, that's exactly what you get. All right. 10. I mean 72. So if I change this to say 12, right? So it means you're going to get a value in row 12. So you have in row 12, you have 60. You have the 60 now. So that's what the indirect thing is about. Okay. So it's you can keep changing. So if I make it like 21 now, so it is going to give me the last value. So if I make it 22, then it gives me nothing. It gives me 0. Okay. So as you keep changing this, you keep getting different results. So whatever. So what if you also want to sum a range of values from B2 to B6? So we did the same thing like this in offset initially. So do it in indirect. All you just need to do is just say is equal to some indirect data B2 to B6. Now the interesting thing is that you don't need this indirect to do the same job, right? You can just say is equal to sum, all right, and that you just reference the data exclamation B2 to B6. Press enter, you get the same result. But it is what it is, like they say. So the indirect is just like it's doing the same job. It's redundant per se. So, but it's doing the job. If you remove it, it also does the same job. Then let's do another one. Get a value for a date based on row number stored in E1. So this is my E1 now. So I have row number 11, and I want a value for a date based on row number stored in E1. So if you come here and see, you have indirect data B and E1 plus 1. So I want to get a value for a date based on row number stored in E1. So I have date in B. You have the values in B, right? And E1 plus 1. So it means whatever E1 is 11 plus 1, that's 12, right? So here now, you have 12 is 11 January 2025, you know. But you now want to get a value for that, right? So because of the value of the value you want to get, you see, A is the date, right? And then the indirect, you have data in B and E1 plus 1. So it will shift it from the date to the right. So from data B, and E1 plus 1. So I said 11 here plus 1. So that's so you have the normal 11, that's the date, and then it gives you the value. So if I change this to say uh 18 now, okay, so it takes you to 51. So you go to 18. So this is the date for 18. Then it shifts it to one step to the right, and then you get 71. Oh, this 51. Let's say 51. Okay. Yeah, 18 plus 1 is 19, sorry. So you have 19 and then shift it. Yeah, 19, 18 plus 1, 19. So you shift it to the right, so you get 51. And that's how that is. So this offset and indirecting can be a bit clumsy, but there are use cases for it. That's why we learn. So, for instance, we have some common use cases like dynamic sheet referencing, using variable cell addresses stored in another cell, creating independent drop-down lists with dynamic ranges, references ranges based on user inputs, e.g., named cells and tables. The advantages, they are extremely flexible for dynamic referencing, ideal for scenarios involving user-driven inputs. Okay, but the cons, they are also a volatile function, can slow performance in large workbooks, and it's prone to errors if the reference string is invalid or mistyped, and doesn't update references when rows or columns are inserted or deleted. So you want to avoid their use as much as possible if you can. So when we talk about offset versus indirect, key differences now. The feature for the reference type now, offset is relative and it is based on position, while indirect is absolute based on string input. Volatility now, offset is volatile, indirect is also volatile. Dynamic named ranges, offset is in common use, while indirect is less common. Error prone with edits. Offset is less affected by structure changes, while indirect is more likely to break with sheet edits. Then ease of use. Offset is more intuitive once learned, while indirect requires careful string construction, right? So then talking about refers to external sheets. Offset, no, offset does not refer to external sheets unless paired with indirect, but indirect refers to external sheets. So it's great for dynamic sheet references, although sometimes we can do without indirect and we still get the result as I showed you. It is used in charts. Offset is very commonly used in charts for dynamic chart ranges, while indirect is occasionally used for dynamic labels or ranges. Okay, so that's what we have for now. Okay, yeah, that's it. So in summary, now you see that offset is best for dynamic ranges based on position, while okay, and the key feature is that it moves from a reference by rows and columns, while indirect is good for dynamic references from strings. And the key feature is that it converts text to cell and sheet reference. So with that, we come to the end of this interesting video. Um, Let me know how helpful this video is for you. I mean, there's something you'd like me to do, you can suggest so I can try that out. If you have subscribed already, thank you. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can always get alerted. You can always get alerted each time a new video is released. You can become a member of my channel. Of course, just click on join, and then you have 3 layers of membership. So you can be part of this channel and get some extra privileges apart from just being a subscriber. But if all you can do is subscribe, of course, you have your videos coming. You have all the videos coming. But as a member of the channel, you can have some videos exclusively made for you, or you can get to see some videos before that. See it. You can request my PDF notes for math lessons. You can have a one-on-one chat with me depending on your level of membership. All right. So, um, don't forget also to share this video and other videos on this channel so that more people can have access to the great content I have going on here. Till I come your way again, keep doing data right. Don't forget you can download the data sheets that I've been using by just clicking on the Google Drive link on Facebook or on YouTube. Till I come your way again, keep doing data right. That's the second time I'm saying that, but that's good. See you. Bye.